Hello everybody, thank you for joining me. This is Game God Fluent, bringing you episode 2 of Let's Play Aleph. It's going to be another manual reading, so I'm going to start the game and I'm going to turn the volume down a little bit here in my headphones. We are going to tackle the magic system today. In the Seer's Companion Tome. So let's just get right into it. Chapter 5, Spells and Magic. Being the 5th wizard of the House of the Scroll, this subject is nearest and dearest to my heart and interests. I will endeavor to list the common spells of each circle of magic that can be obtained throughout the realm, as well as one which is not common at all. To note, each circle of magic is in proportion to the power of the spells contained within, and the amount of strain they put upon the caster to wield. A Circle 1 spell will have a low impact on the constitution of the caster, whereas a Circle 8 spell will be very taxing indeed. So that's an interesting system that we're going to learn here. First circle, Light. A necessity in the dark caverns and dungeons of the realm, this spell will This spell will envelop the caster in a bright cone of illumination. Home. For you, the seer, this spell will transport you and your retinue back to Freehold. Egress. This spell works only whilst inside a dungeon. In a flash, you and your retinue will appear at the very entrance of the dungeon you were once in the midst of. Wizard's Eye. Grants the caster the ability to hone in on potential weaknesses found in whatever foe you are facing. And Cartography. Creates an astral map projection of the land surrounding the caster. Very cool. Second circle. Heal 1. The first of the healing spells, this will magically knit together light wounds, but will not help against much heavier ones. It is greatly recommended for your retinue as well as yourself to know at least this level of healing spell. Fireball summons forth and engulfs your foe in a fiery conflagration, causing burns and harm. Ice. In essence, the opposite of Fireball for the caster, summons forth frigid ice to chill and lacerate the foe. And Create Food. An essential spell that may well save your life if you forget to bring an ample supply of food and provisions. This spell allows the caster to summon forth a random consumable. Third circle. Regen 1. Slowly heals minor wounds over a short period of time. This allows the caster to focus upon other tasks whilst convalescing. Poison 1 inflicts a foe with a mild but insidious affliction that slowly eats away at their flesh. Drain steals the very life force of a foe and grants it to the caster, healing wounds in the process. Cure. There are many afflictions that slowly eat away at one's health. This spell removes them. And Lightning strikes a foe with a charged bolt of lightning from the very heavens, electrocuting them and causing grave harm. And Recall transports the caster and retinue to a previously marked location. This spell requires the 5th circle spell Mark to work properly. 4th circle, Wall of Stone, creates a thick wall of rock around the caster's target, offering a high level of protection. Heal 2 quickly and painlessly removes small and moderate-sized wounds, although the strain of casting this spell is a bit higher than Heal 1. Arch Heal 1 covers the caster and the entire retinue in a soft glowing light which closes all small and minor wounds. Bubble. Although the name of this spell is quaint, its effects are quite deadly, potentially. The caster envelops a foe in a sphere of water, not only causing sufficient damage, but also potentially drowning them as well. Quake. The caster manipulates the very earth itself, shifting and breaking apart the ground beneath all foes being faced, potentially causing a high amount of damage. Wind conjures forth a mighty gust of air which grievously harms your foe and tears at their flesh. Holy, an interesting spell which is highly damaging to many denizens of evil. A most holy light is brought forth, burning and tormenting the foe. Darkness, the opposite of holy, this spell consumes a foe in an inky darkness, causing great damage and inflicting decay and entropy upon their flesh. 5th circle, Regen 2, gradually mends moderate wounds over a short period of time, allowing the caster to focus on other endeavors. Mute prevents a foe from uttering any incantations, effectively preventing them from using magic. Blind robs a foe of their sight, a very effective spell to prevent enemies from causing grievous harm to you or your retinue. Soft, the primary existence of this spell is to remove petrification, though it also works to remove paralysis and other immobilizing effects. Haste alters time around the focus of this spell, allowing for quicker than human movement. Protect summons forth a protective magic shell which dampens all incoming physical blows. Meteors summons forth from the heavens a mighty swarm of fire to devastate all of your foes and scarring their flesh. Bless, a potent spell which enchants the target of the spell with heightened abilities, strength, senses, speed. It can turn a mere normal man into a gladiator. Mark, used in conjunction with the spell Recall, this spell will mark your present location so that you may recall back to it at any time. Sixth Circle, Poison 2, afflicts a foe with a harsh, flesh-consuming malady. It is truly a terrible way to perish from the realm. Arcly Poison inflicts all of your foes... Arch Poison inflicts all of your foes simultaneously with a mild malady which slowly eats away at them. Sleep, certainly not a spell to be overlooked. This will instantly enchant one foe to drift asleep. Needless to say, this is suboptimal when in the midst of a melee. Invigorate. The recipient of this spell quickly, and maintains for some time after, a heightened level of energy, which allows for them to fight more keenly for a period of time. Very useful for those who rely heavily on weapons and strength of arms. Cleanse. A truly marvelous and life-saving spell. This will remove many maladies, diseases, and other negative effects one might suffer in the midst of combat. Blizzard summons forth a stupendously frigid blast of cold, which not only rends the flesh of all of your foes, but is sure to chill and slow them where they stand. Curse. This diabolical spell is the result of the cult of the Ebon Bones, but that fact should not dissuade one from using it. The target of the curse will feel greatly weakened, and their very essence and energy will be slowly depleted as well. Magic Shield encases the target of the spell in a powerful field, which greatly dampens all incoming magical attacks. Exorcism, a highly situational spell that will remove any possession by spirits from everyone within your retinue. Seventh Circle, Cone of Silence, surrounds a large area with an immaterial shell which prevents foes from uttering incantations and casting spells of any circle. Paralyzed, the target of this spell finds themselves unable to move their limbs or react in any way for a short period of time, leaving them helpless and vulnerable. Dispel. If you find yourself confronting an adversary who has enchanted himself with spells of protection and shells of magic, then Dispel shall erase all of them, leaving them in a vulnerable state. Arch Heal 2. Akin to its predecessor, this spell will mend moderate wounds upon anyone in the entire retinue. Chain Lightning calls forth a cascade of terrible lightning which will devastate the entire enemy party, scarring their flesh and bones. Life 1. This spell will literally save your life or the life of one of your retinue. A caster who can master this spell has begun their mastery over life and death. Warp. Transports the entire retinue to any township that has been visited at least once. This spell is essential for those who travel about. Eighth Circle, Regen 3. This spell will gradually mend all serious wounds on the benefactor, freeing them to focus on other matters. Confusion muddles the mind and senses of one poor foe to the point where they are unable to determine who is their ally and who is their enemy. They will attack both alike. Hex, a more intense and dastardly form of curse which greatly weakens the resolve of any enemy combatant and drains them of their very essence and energy. Heal 3 masterfully heals serious wounds and restores an ally even on the brink of death to good and lasting health. Abyss. The caster of this spell rips the very fabric of reality itself, and the oozing pustule of darkness envelops all enemies, causing cataclysmic damage, blindness, and a slow and gradual rot of the flesh. Wow. So this is very cool. This magic system is very unique. Does not take after D&D in terms of, like, you know, sleep is like a 6th or 5th level spell, and, you know, it's very different. Flood summons forth from the sky a torrential downpouring of water, simultaneously crushing and drowning all foes. Golem's Crushing Foot. The Hail Gear were fond of their artificial friends, the golems, and this spell allows for the summoning of the massive foot of one such golem. It will stamp out the life of all enemies you face and leave behind disease and plague. Huh. Tornado, the mastery of the very winds itself. A tormenting vortex of wind rips and tears at the flesh of all enemies and pummels them with debris. Wall of Iron, akin to the spell Wall of Stone, this summons another barrier, but made of iron instead. It greatly reduces all forms of incoming damage. Ninth Circle, Restore, the penultimate spell for removing all maladies, diseases, and negative augmentations and incantations. It is known to even mend broken bones. Hysteria, consumes all enemies with a volcanic heat so intense that it drives them to madness and drives them to such a madness that they will rend their own flesh to abate the pain. Life 2. The mastery over life and death. This will bring one ally back from the dead whilst enjoying great health. Death. The final spell of the 9th circle. This completes the circle that begins with the spell of life. The unfortunate target of this spell will crumple and their life force is immediately extinguished. The Lost Circle. Annihilation. This spell, above all others, unleashes the most devastating of power. It is so powerful and rightly feared that the last remaining spell scroll itself was torn into several pieces and hidden throughout the realm. The wraith I mentioned earlier that I had met in the dungeon Blasphemous, Wes Talbor, is the only being who can piece back together this spell scroll should someone find all of the pieces. The spell of annihilation has 2 possible uses. One is good and altruistic, and the other is surely evil and most foul. The first and altruistic use of the spell is to cause great and lasting harm upon the being known as anathema, for that was the intended target of the spell when it was originally conceived by the Hailgear in Simultus. The second use of the spell, of which it was not at all intended by the creators, is when it is cast, not in the presence of anathema, it will destroy all of mankind. I hope you can understand now that it is hidden away for a very good reason. I know that it would be of great use to you should you need to overcome anathema. Excuse me. But the risk of it falling into the wrong hands is too high, and thus I leave you with only a map to locate the pieces yourself. I mentioned before that my good friend Tai, a monk of the House of the Iron Fist, holds the map dear on the Isle of Incunessa. Should you find need of this spell, seek him out and seek the pieces of the spell scroll. Once gathered, bring the pieces to West Talbot of Blasphemous. I do hope that it will serve you well in its intended purpose. Chapter 6, The Beasts of the Realm. So we're going to get into this too. The Bestiary. This is going to be a lot of fun. So it's not just the magic this episode, because that section was pretty short. So we're just about done with the book, really, but let's check out the beasts. Alright. Very cool. Perhaps one of the biggest differences between your world and mine is that your world is not full of wandering beasts and creatures that will happily devour your flesh. Sure, there are some, but not compared to here, and not in such quantity. It must be told that many enemies are the direct result of the Dark Father and Anathema. In their corruption and darkness, they gave birth to a great many monstrosities, but not all of the beasts of the realm that seek to do you harm are from them. Some come from nature, which makes me shudder all the more. The following pages contain what I know of many of the beasts of the realm, categorized for your convenience. Humanoids. Goblins. These diminutive bipeds are a crude and vulgar group of enemies, though they tend to not be too dangerous in their own right. In larger groups they may pose a challenge. Goblins are one of the older races created in the time of Anathema. They possess a hierarchy where a chieftain is in command, seconded by a warrior caste, followed by a shaman caste, with a grunt caste at the bottom. Interesting that the warrior caste is above the shaman caste. The Grood. An ancient and malevolent race if there ever was one. There are some scholars who... we can check them out there. They look pretty rough and tumble. There are some scholars who believe the Grood to be distant cousins of man, but I can merely guffaw at the notion of that. These villains tend to roam in bands, though never too far from a central fortification. These denizens of Anathema are numerous. You will encounter a wide variety in your travel, from lowly grunts and scouts to assassins, mages, and if you are unfortunate, even chieftains. There are peculiar sects of Grood that inhabit the northern Isis, as well as some that inhabit Bedlam. Bugbears. These creatures of ill intent are closely related to the Grood, though they seem more content to wander alone or in very small groups. They possess a crude instinct which allows them to search for food, often leading them to unfortunate travelers and merchants upon the roadways. They are not particularly dangerous, but do exercise caution if you encounter them all the same. They look pretty rough, but... Kobolds. Small in physical stature, these rapscallions are more of a nuisance than a genuine threat. Even in relatively large numbers, they do not pose a formidable threat to an experienced adventurer. They have a love of gold, and it is that desire that oft brings them to populated areas. Ratmen. As if giant rodentia were not terrible a threat enough, man-rats certainly pose a risk to the unwary. They are mischievous and capable of wielding weapons and armor in their favor. Beware their bite, Seer, for they can impose an infectious disease. The common ratman is not too difficult of a foe to overcome, though certainly tougher than any average goblin or kobold. Do keep a keen eye out for the greater man-rats, for they are much stronger and more dangerous. Frogkin. These man-frogs are not particularly intelligent, but are capable of wielding crude weapons. Certain subspecimens of the frogkin... One second, guys. Okay, we're back. Frogkin. Certain subspecimens of the frogkin can elicit poisonous toxins through simple contact, so do be wary. They can primarily be found in the Great Blight surrounding Nysa, as well as any other swampland where the boggy marsh is their home. So that's interesting. Frogkin. Ogres. Dim-witted and strong, these brutes are capable of exacting great physical harm upon those unfortunate enough to be struck by one. They are easily outwitted and fooled, however, making magic a good countermeasure, especially blind, confusion, and sleep. Ogres will sometimes accompany Groot or other creatures, preferring a general mob mentality over individual thought. Dryads. These beautiful but dangerous women of the wilds are long thought to be distant relatives of the ancient Hailgear. I know not if this is true, but I do know that they can be quite dangerous. They possess certain latent abilities to charm men, and for those that resist their charms, they can bring bear a variety of magic. They do not often travel alone, and can often be found in the company of various living vegetation, such as deathcaps, tree ants, and their ilk. Wendigos. Though thought to be smaller, more hairy trolls, these cumbersome creatures live in the colder regions of the realm. Although not as physically potent as a troll, a Wendigo can still be quite dangerous with its greater-than-human strength and its affinity for the ice and cold. Minotaurs. Wow, this game has everything. These man-bulls are believed to have been wandering the realm since before the time of man itself. They are notoriously strong, but what makes them perhaps even more dangerous is their ability to negate magic and magic effects. I must admit, though, encountering a Minotaur is fairly rare. Cyclops. These one-eyed giants are a mystery to scholars and historians, for nobody is exactly sure when the first encounters with them happened. They are large, brutish, and possess a raw strength even greater than the above-mentioned Minotaur, but lack the magic-negating abilities. An angered Cyclops is known to throw heavy boulders at its enemies. Trolls. Possessing great strength, vitality, and resilience, as well as an irrational hatred of mankind, trolls are perhaps one of the greatest threats you will encounter. There are numerous types of trolls, ranging from the lava trolls of Bedlam to the rock and wood trolls that wander the realm, but the most dangerous of all are the troll warlords and troll chiefs. Trolls possess an accelerated healing rate, which makes damaging them a difficult mission to accomplish, for they will gradually regenerate even from the most grave of wounds, but are vulnerable to fire and flames. Flayers. These most unholy creatures tend to wander the depths of Ignavis and other such dreaded locations. They are quite dangerous due to their potent understanding of magic and spells, as well as their latent ability to turn allies against one another. Their attacks on the mind are what makes a Flayer truly dangerous and hated. Gremlins. Small of stature and strength, gremlins are more interested in causing minor trouble and acquiring their beloved shiny gold than they are in actually causing bodily harm or malice. Should you encounter a gremlin, watch your coin purse, for that is no doubt the intended target. However, not all gremlins are necessarily evil. I have encountered some that were capable of speaking in our tongue, and one even lives among mankind, serving as a banker. Vermin. Giant bats. Often found in caverns and the upper levels of some dungeons, these winged rodents pose little threat. They seem attracted to any prey that is hot-blooded, for they appear to ingest blood as nourishment. Giant rats. The common giant rat is a nuisance, though take care of its bite, for they are known to spread pestilence. Their much larger cousins, the plague rats, are much more dangerous and virulent. Giant rats can be found in the upper levels of dungeons, while plague rats are thankfully rarer. Giant wasps. Found most commonly throughout the wooded areas of the realm, these insects are only marginally dangerous. Their large stingers can pierce flesh with ease, and even through light armor, causing a good deal of bleeding. In addition, their stingers impart a mild and unpleasant toxin into their targets. Giant dragonflies. Far from being the most dangerous creature you will encounter in the realm, these flying insects are capable of taking a decent gouge of flesh if you are not careful. Carnivorous in nature, they hunt man just as likely as they hunt deer, wolves, or any other such prey. Their bites are mildly toxic and can cause moderate bleeding. Crawlers. Preferring to live in the moist debris of rotting leaves and foliage, crawlers can be found commonly in wooded areas and their surroundings. They are neither poisonous nor overtly harmful if dealt with carefully. Some hunters even prefer them for game hunting. Stag beetles, not commonly found in the realm, the occasional encounter with a stag beetle can be dangerous. Their front pinchers are capable of causing severe lacerations, often leading to a dramatic loss of blood in their victim. Asps. A variety of asps exist through the realm, favoring the Great Blight as well as various dungeon depths. Even the weakest of asps is an assured danger, for their venomous fangs can greatly weaken their victim. The most dangerous known asp, the albino asp, has a poison so potent that it can prove lethal within moments of its coursing through the victim's blood. Even without the threat of poison, an asp's fangs are sharp as daggers and can cause severe bleeding and puncture wounds. Harpies. These winged menaces are an angry lot. Their temperament is as fierce as their talons are sharp. They can most commonly be found in the mountains pass east of the township of Ellen. Though they may take up residence in certain dungeons, the multicolored exotic harpy is a rarer find, but far more deadly. Pretty interesting take on all these monsters, you know. Nagas. With a torso of a woman and the bottom half of a snake, Nagas are most curious creatures. They are believed to be the manifest of the principle of blasphemy, the fusion of man and serpent. They are not commonly encountered outside of Ferocia. Naga, although deadly in their own right, are not as dangerous as the Naga rattlers that inhabit deeper dungeons. They are extremely quick. Giant spiders. Lady Seer Viria spoke at length to me regarding the spiders in your world, how most are the size of a mere coin, while the largest being the size of a bowl. She was unprepared for the spiders in this realm. There are several varieties, the smallest having the equivalent size and weight of a man. Unlike in your world, these spiders are never venomous. However, they have a great hunger for meat and are keen to wrap their prey in a sticky webbing before sucking the bloody pulp from them. The more dangerous of the giant spiders is the widow spider. Their bite at times can be so severe that it can cause instant death. Giant scorpions. Most giant scorpions are a moderate threat at best. The primary issue to be concerned with, if encountering these denizens of the Korkok Desert, are their stingers, for they carry a potent and viscous venom which renders the prey unable to move. The giant scorpion has a much tougher older brother, though, the king scorpion. These kings of the desert are extremely strong, and their carapace is among the toughest of all known creatures, which makes them a prized possession for extremely skilled and gifted hunters. Giant worms. These creatures are massive in size and capable of devouring a man whole. They reside in the Korkok Desert, where they tend to feast on scorpions. They are large and brutishly strong, but not particularly intelligent. They seem to mostly orient themselves through instinct. Still, do not underestimate an encounter with one of these, lest you find yourself as a meal. Dragons. Wyverns, compared to their brethren the worms. Wyverns are small in comparison, being no larger than a man. Their talons, teeth, and even the barbs on their tail contain a substance which is proven poisonous to man. Wyverns, either brown or green, are not commonly encountered, but if you do come across them, be mindful of them. They wield low-level magic in addition to their deadly appendages. Dragonkin. These rare creatures are an oddity to be sure. Neither man nor quite dragon, it is difficult to say where they belong in the realm. They are strong, but not overly dangerous to a prepared adventurer. I know little else of them. Worms. Among the top tier of most dangerous entities you might encounter, worms are never to be trifled with. These ancient beasts are as cunning as they are strong. Their thick, scaly hide protects them well from most weapons, and they have a natural ability to dampen magic attacks. Their scales and teeth make for excellent armor and weapons, but they are naturally extremely rare to come by because nobody dares to hunt such a creature. Worms are known to wield among the most powerful of magic, even 8th circle spells, in addition to their iron-melting fire breath. Thank the light that worms, whether black, red, or uncolored, do not travel in the wilds and can only be found in the deepest of the most dangerous dungeons. Ancient worm. I have never met one, nor do I ever wish to. Of all acquaintances in my knowing, only one has ever set their eyes upon such a rare and fearsome beast, the first wizard of the House of the Scroll before his disappearance. Little is known about these most elder of creatures aside from their love of extremely rare adamantine ore and their possession of great magic, traits shared by all worms, it would seem. I know not where you might encounter this formidable entity, so it would be best to keep your wits about you when traveling into the lowest depths of dungeons, and if you do encounter one, it is my sincerest and most advantageous advice that you run. Now we go to beasts. Wolves. Indigenous to most of the wilds of the realm, including the area surrounding Freehold itself, Wolves tend to not pose the most dire of threats. The Arctic variety is a bit more fearsome due to its acclimation to such harsh conditions than the smaller timber kind, though they have an abundant fear of fire. Their strong jaws are capable of causing severe punctures and gaping wounds if caught unawares. Lizards. Like wolves, these creatures are very common throughout the realm and are of little danger to anyone who has their wits about them. Their small teeth are hooked, which can cause tears in flesh. Lizards are oft hunted as a means of food and sport due to their speed. Aurochs. Whilst the typical aurochs can be found mainly on the southern continent, the swamp aurochs have become a staple of the Great Blight surrounding Nysa. These creatures at some point in the distant past were domesticated animals that farmers used to plow their fields and haul lumber from the forests with. Now they are more feral and far less helpful. If you encounter an enraged auroch, be mindful of their hooves, for they tend to kick with a tremendous force. Hounds. Most curious beasts, these hounds are a term which I use mostly in jest, for they are nothing like the domesticated hounds you will find around... well, they look pretty wicked. Around a township. These beasts are vile and ill-tempered, with a great thirst for bloody meat. There are a variety of different breeds, from the typical kind you might wander into throughout the realm, to the mountain hounds found in the passes between Ellen and the Dead Wood. An even larger and far more dangerous breed can be found within certain dungeons, referred to simply as hell beasts for their demonic nature and inclination. They are agile, and their jaws can crush a man's skull, so do not trifle with them lightly. Chimeras. These beasts have 3 hellish heads, one of a goat with a demonic visage, one of a lion, and one of a serpent, which sits upon the end of the creature's bizarre tail. Capitalizing on their great speed and knowledge of magic, chimeras of various dungeons are deadly adversaries, and even more so the half-dead rock chimera. The origin of these beasts is muddled in the history of anathema. Some claim they are the result of evil and most vile spells gone awry, cast by a forgotten sect of Hailgear wizards, but make no mistake, they are seeded with great evil intent. Griffins. Oft used as symbols of heraldry by the gentry, griffins are noble and magnificent to look upon. Their temperament, however, does not match this visage. They are ravenous meat-eaters and very avid hunters, perhaps among the most prolific in the realm. Their piercing talons and crushing beak are so precise that at times armor is of little protection against them. Though somewhat rare to encounter, you may find the occasional griffin in the wilds of the realm or within some dungeon or another. The vulture griffin is more of a menace than the average one, and more care should be taken when approaching such a beast. Manticores. Wow. I have rarely gazed upon a creature that appeared more malicious than a manticore, with the body of a beast and head of a man. These reprobates are surely the very spawn of anathema itself. Their warped image is that of the cruelty of man, and their threat to man is incredible. The greater manticore wield powerful magic, and the spiked tail, as well as claws and teeth, ooze a paralyzing venom which incapacitates their unfortunate victims. Beasts of burden. Would you believe that these massive creatures were at a time not long ago very docile, and used oft by miners to carry large quantities of ore and rock? Check them out. Well, they look pretty wicked. Only within the past generation did these beasts become ornery and ill-tempered, and it is unclear exactly as to why. Some believe it has to do with the ancient Aleph of Glianessa, but to me the mystery remains unsolved. Not many of these creatures roam the realm, and you are more likely to find one wandering in a more remote region than anywhere near the well-traveled roads. Venom beasts. Found in the Korkak Desert, these creatures are a bizarre hybrid of a hound and a scorpion, no doubt some vile product of dark magics. Although relatively quick and powerful, the true threat of the venom beast derives from the tail, which injects a terribly potent venom which is rarely survivable. Wow. Wargwolves. Although they may walk and indeed run at frightening speed, upright like a man, these creatures are among the most feral and instinct-driven in the realm. Wargwolf groups are oft led by an alpha wargwolf, which is larger and has a darker coat than the others. Wargwolves can most commonly be found hunting in the lands surrounding Ellen, though you might chance encounter them elsewhere. The pelts of wargwolves are well sought-after prizes for huntsmen, but the game is very dangerous, for their teeth and claws rend flesh and leave grievously deep wounds. If by some chance of luck that a victim escapes from the clutches of a werewolf pack, they will more than not perish from blood loss. Hydras. These multi-headed creatures are rumored to exist in the depths of the dungeon Ferocia, though they are rumored to exist elsewhere as well. Not much is known of their origin, but they appear to be quite old, perhaps older than Anathema. They look like dinosaurs. Little else can be said about them, for I have never encountered one before. Catoblepaws. Catoblepaws. How would I pronounce that? Catoblepaws. With a resemblance to an ordinary swine, it is oft said that the Catoblepaws is the result of a transformative spell gone awry when cast upon a boar. For reasons unknown, these creatures have a strong anti-magic affinity, which makes hunting them particularly difficult due to their incredible heft and dangerous protruding tusks. These beasts wander the Badlands south of Brydalos. Hunters I have known tell that when hunting the dangerous Catoblepaws, spears tend to be more effective at piercing their tough hide than swords or axes, and although their hide is tough, it does not make decent leather armor, for it becomes incredibly brittle when treated. Catoblepaws. Behemoths. It is said their origins come from the sea, hence their somewhat aquatic visage. These creatures are relatively new to the realm, having spawned from some sort of corruption of the water somewhere west of the township of Resht. These monstrous beasts at once terrorized the poor town until Ortog and his followers drove them away. Now they can be found scouring the Badlands east of Resht. Perhaps among the most physically resilient and strong of the beasts in the realm, it is best to avoid them if possible, though their hide, unlike the Catoblepaws, makes for excellent armor when cured and treated properly. However, it is quite rare for hunters to go after such game due to the extreme danger involved, which makes behemoth hide a very rare commodity. Now we get to the demons, hellhounds. Similar to hounds in appearance, the hellhound is a beast not of this realm, like most creatures of the demon family. Thought to have been summoned forth by the Dark Father of ages past, these creatures know only hatred and revulsion towards man. Hellhounds themselves, though, compared to many of their demonic ilk, are not terribly dangerous, which is not to say you should underestimate an encounter with one. They are hot to the touch and can ignite a person's clothing should they get too close. Fire magic is useless against these beasts, but water and ice sufficiently subdue these beasts. Imps. These diminutive devils are ill-mannered and mischievous conjurers of magic. The potency of the magic they wield solely rests upon the subset of imp that is being encountered, for the name imp is more of a classification of these small demons, which includes gargoyles and their ilk as well. Most imps have mastery over the lower circle spells, and even the more powerful imp variants rarely master circles above the 6th. You may encounter these within the halls of the dungeons Incians, as well as other such dungeons. I'm going to hit my water bottle here before we talk about fiends. Fiends. This subdivision of the demonic family are a brutish lot with little cleverness and no understanding of how to use magic. Instead, they rely on unholy strength and a deep-rooted hatred and hunger for man-flesh. Even the weakest of fiends is not to be underestimated, while the more powerful of lot, the eviscerators, should be avoided at all costs, though I think they only scour the forsaken halls of the dungeon Bedlam itself. I have had occasion once to meet a fiend that was more clever than most, and indeed he was not a wholly malevolent being. I trust you will meet him should you plunge into the depths of the dungeon Incians. Succubi. Easily the most beguiling of all the demons, the succubus appears as a beautiful woman, but do not trust your eyes, for they are very much bent on evil. The succubi are known for their manipulative powers, which turns friends into foes to do their wicked biddings. In addition to their deceptive charms, they wield a fairly sizable command over magic, up to the 6th or 7th circles, with a strong favoring of debilitating spells instead of overtly damaging ones. They seem to enjoy playing with their prey. Like many demons, you are most like to find succubi within the dungeon Bedlam or within the dungeon Incians among the forsaken books and halls. Gazers. Oh, cool. These demons defy the very laws which bind us to the ground, for they hover above it without wings. Their many eyes make it nearly impossible to catch a gazer unawares. Lesser gazers can be found in the deeper wilds of the realm, whilst the much more powerful and dangerous scolders lurk in the frozen north surrounding the dungeon Blasphemous. Gazers do not possess much in the way of physical strength, though they do possess a certain demonic influence to it, but they do have very keen and sinister minds full of knowledge of magic. The scolders are capable of casting all spells up to the 8th circle. Gazers are typically avoided, but some might hunt them for their eyes hold magical properties, which can be utilized in the creation of certain trinkets with abilities. It is said that the gazers are the eyes of anathema, and all that they behold he does as well. Demons. Strong of both mind and body, demons are the most malevolent and keenly villainous of foes in the realm. A demon, and to a much greater extent archdemons, towers over a man and wields an incredible array of devastating spells. Even the weakest of demons is a master of 8th circle magic. The insufferable demon ilk can be found in the dungeon Incians, while the most powerful archdemons and flame demons reside in and around the dungeon Bedlam. Flame demons have a strong affinity to fire, as their namesake suggests, and hold a weakness against ice and water. Archdemons do not possess such weakness. Most demons are resilient against the use of most magic in general, though not impervious to it. Demon horns and more macabre, demon skin, are both sought after for their potent magical properties. And the Pit Fiend. No greater evil is known in the realm other than anathema. The Pit Fiend wields tremendous power, and it is the Pit Fiend alone in the whole realm of creatures that can rival the raw power of an ancient worm. There is very little information regarding them, for certainly nobody has ever lived to tell the tale of an encounter with such a powerful entity. All that is known is that these monsters are at the top of the demonic hierarchy, answering to no one. There are no tales or stories that state any weakness or vulnerabilities that a Pit Fiend might possess. The only tales come from legends that existed for hundreds of years, that a single Pit Fiend can destroy an entire army of men with but the wave of a hand. They are said to exist deep within the hellish dungeon of Bedlam, but one traveler told me there might be one elsewhere as well. Ethereal. Ghosts. The poor lost souls of the isle that is now inhabited by the dungeon Blasphemous wander in ceaseless torment. These ghastly figures are nearly impossible to see in the blizzardly conditions of the frozen tundra. They are believed to be long-dead Hailgear who were once in the service of the Lady Echo de Dragon. Although lacking in constitution, as they appear ethereal in nature, conventional weapons are not particularly effective. Instead, the best way to banish a ghost if set upon by its tormenting is by the use of magic. Revenants. Only the most accursed and tortured of souls in the frozen tundra have ultimately contorted into what could be called a revenant. These are fiendish and exceptionally dangerous spirits. Indeed, they possess superhuman strength and vitality, which is made even more impressive by the fact that physical weapons are extremely limited in use against them. They are known to have the abilities to dampen magical attacks wielded against them as well, and indeed the use of any poison is pointless, making them entities which are best left to their eternal torments. Ethereal demons. Although they are demonic in form, these spirits are not beholden to the domain of other demons, and indeed share far more similarities with the likes of ghosts and revenants. Their incorporeal bodies, like ghosts and revenants, make them immune to bleeding and poison attacks, as well as making physical weapons less than ideal compared to magic. Ethereal demons are indeed quite sinister foes here. They wield the highest circles of magic and are stubbornly difficult to kill, as far as I know. Since I know of nobody who has ever done so, these creatures may be found in the depths of the dungeon Bedlam. Elementals. There exists an abundant variety of earth spirits, fire spirits, water spirits, and so forth, that to depict them all here would take far too many pages. Very cool, look at all of them. Although dangerous in their own right, elementals are not on the same level of danger possessed by other ethereals. In fact, they are oft hunted for their elemental essences, which are at times left behind in their perishing, which are a common ingredient in potions and tonics, as well as enchantments and used by craftsmen in the construction of weapons and armors. Each unique elemental has command over magic related to that element. That is to say, a fire elemental will conjure fireballs and an ice elemental will summon a blizzard. Each elemental is weak to an opposing element. The fire elemental will easily be overcome by wielding ice against it. An earth elemental is susceptible to the wind and tornado spells. Elementals can be found all over the realm and within numerous dungeons. Constructs. Scarecrows. Resembling the form of man, these autonomous bundles of rags were once Hailgear's servants. Without the Hailgear to control them, over the generations these scarecrows have become quite wild. They possess only a rudimentary knowledge of magic and possess the strength roughly equal to a trained soldier. If you should encounter and defeat one, be sure to take the enchanted cloth from which the scarecrow is made, for it can certainly be repurposed to better ends. Mimics! Many adventurers and travelers marvel at the sight of a chest full of possible treasures, and many adventurers and travelers have lost their hands when that treasure chest bit them. Mimics are insidious, and aside from malevolence, I know not a single reason as to why they exist. To the untrained eye, a mimic will appear just as any other chest you might find, and that is where their danger lies. They are capable of biting and tearing with powerful teeth, but they also cast 5th and 6th level circle spells. 5th and 6th circle spells. If you are ever in need of someone who is capable of discerning a mimic from a treasure chest, I met a lovely lady in the sad town of Nysa in my travels. In her years of experience as a seeker of treasures, she has learned all the telltale signs of a mimic, and indeed many other deceitful traps. Go to Nysa. Golems. Made of normally inanimate material, these ancient guardians were created by the Hailgear to serve as soldiers against the powers of anathema. Made from materials ranging from mud and stone to iron and even adamantine, they fought tirelessly for their masters. Upon the extinction of the Hailgear, their soldiers became dormant for generations. Nobody knows why or how, but one day in the distant past, the golems awoke from their torpor, and now they wander the halls of the dungeon Simultus, attacking anyone they see as intruder. Golems tend to rely mostly upon their great strength to crush their foes into submission, but they also have a small array of magic at their disposal. The weakest of golems, the mud golem, is still more formidable than any mere man. Stone and metal golems are stronger yet, and the legendary adamantine golems are nigh on indestructible. If facing such foes, maces fare better than blades, for the crushing blows are more damaging. Adamantine golems are perhaps the only last remaining source of adamantine ore, which makes it an incredibly rare resource since defeating the golem is a gargantuan task. Very cool, man. We're going to get into all this in the next episode, probably start the game, so stay tuned for that. Mandragoras. Diminutive in nature, the common mandragora is of little threat to travelers. The mandragora can release a pollen which is known to cause sleepiness in those who breathe it in. There are more dangerous variants in the realm, such as the jungle gora, which inhabits certain isles. Although they resemble the form of man, these creatures are purely plant and regenerate from minor damage fairly readily. All forms of mandragora are very susceptible to fire, as well as bladed weapons such as axes and swords. Deathcaps. These fungi creatures are very closely related to the mandragoras. The primary difference between them are that the deathcaps appear more mushroom in appearance and are generally a fair bit more dangerous. The common redcap can be found throughout the realm, whilst the more rare deathcap itself is found in the deeper wilds. These creatures are often employed by dryads and treants, for they are not clever beings. Doesn't say what they really do, though. Redcap, deathcap. Treants. Difficult to spot in the wilds of the realm, treants are adept at ambushing unwary travelers. These trees are inhabited by malevolent spirits, which are adept at casting low and medium-end magic spells. They are capable of regrowing lopped-off branches, so the best weapon of choice would be fire, for they are unable to recuperate fast enough to out-regenerate the burning damage. Barrow dwellers. Shambling piles of mold, fungus, and rotting debris, these towering, lumbering creatures are an intimidating sight. They tend to roam the dark wood near the House of the Oak. They are said to have grown from the dragon and demonic blood that seeped deep into the roots of the forest countless generations past. Fire and axe are the best weapons against these earthly abominations, though they are capable of recovering from significant damage quite rapidly and wield terrible strength, so perhaps it is best to not tangle with one altogether. If you do encounter a barrow dweller, certainly do not use water or earth spells. Forest walkers. Occupying the same forest as the barrow dwellers, the forest walkers are a far more clever and intelligent foe. Risen from the same seeped blood as the barrow dweller, the forest walker is both formidable and exceptionally threatening. Capable of minor magic, including healing spells, the forest walker is capable of shunning any magic wielder faced against it. Fortunately, like mandragoras, barrow dwellers, and other plant creatures, the forest walker is highly susceptible to fire and blades. Doesn't say what it does there. They can do minor magic like healing spells, and they have magic resistance, basically. Undead. Headless. Among the weaker of the undead, the headless is by far the least clever, for it has no head. There are not many differences between the headless and a zombie, other than that a headless is somewhat more resilient and strong in comparison, and strangely it can function and detect victims without the use of any of the senses that we tend to take for granted. Zombies. With skeletons and the headless, zombies make up the weakest ranks of the undead. These unfortunate corpses were possessed by such dark and fell magic that they now shamble in search of fresh flesh to tear and rend. Zombies, like skeletons and other undead, can be found in cemeteries as well as the dead wood to the east of Freehold and the dungeon Lethargus. Since these foes are composed of rotting flesh, they do not hold particularly great strength or speed and are readily dispatched. A cleric will have ease turning such weak undead. Skeletons. Driven by the same dark magic that animates zombies, skeletons are commonly found in the same areas. Thank the light, these undead menaces are the most easy to overcome, for they lack physical and mental constitution. They are quite handily dispatched by a good sword blow or low circle magic, and turning them is oft quite successful. Wonder if there's any stronger skeletons, though. That'd be pretty cool, too. Like a skeleton king or something. Witches. Neither quite dead nor of the world of the living, these creatures surely exist in a state of limbo. They can be found quite handily in the dead wood and the dungeon Lethargus, where they use their limited magic to further the cause of whatever dark power bids them to action. Witches are somewhat frail, not possessing much in the way of brute strength or vitality, but do hold a certain level of danger in their wits and magic, certainly nothing that a prepared traveler can't handle. Death Knights. Oh, that's kind of a stronger skeleton. Lurking in the middle floors of Lethargus, Death Knights are a superior foe compared to the degenerated skeletons. Whatever dark power possesses the undead, its influence is far more readily observable in the Death Knight, with its greater-than-man strength and a surprising resilience against physical attacks. Its weakness lies in its inability to truly counter magic. Still, the best defense against these fiends is a cleric to turn them away. Zombie Hulks. Believed to be the reanimated corpses of the long-lost Gygas that were once were more prolific in the realm. These odorous and fetid giants are slow but very powerful, capable of turning a man into red mist with a mighty swipe of its hand. Thanks be to the light that they can easily be turned. Mummies. The most ancient of the undead surely are the mummies, consecrated corpses from the bygone days of the Hailgear and man alliances. What evil intent possesses these bodies now is of much debate across the realm, for the danger that they pose is quite great. More than being merely superiorly strong and keen-witted, mummies are known to be carriers of great plagues and disease. Oh, sire, I can't state with enough emphasis just how dangerous these invisible perils are. The mental fortitude of a mummy is so great that they can't be readily turned by a cleric. Vampires. A member of the greater undead, which is to say the undead that can't be turned by the likes of the clerics. The vampire is a rare but impressively dangerous enemy. The vampire thrives on the blood of its victims, restoring any injury or hurt it had itself sustained at the expense of its victims. It is rumored that a vampire was a great Hailgear wizard in life, twisted by dark rituals and the call of anathema, and thus holds great knowledge of even the highest circle of magic. Whoa. Liches. The last of the greater undead, liches are found on occasion within the confines of a graveyard or in the deeper regions of the dungeon Lethargus. Liches are said to be the cursed and damned heretics of the principles, people of ages past who have forsaken the guiding principles and are now in the grips of blasphemy. They possess both great physical attributes as well as a cleverness that surpasses most mere mortals, and have a command of 9th level circle spells. Like most undead, fire is the best weapon to wield against them. And interesting that there's a sword-wielding lich, so they are physical as well, not just magic using. Interesting. Unique monsters. The creatures I speak of here are unique in that I have only ever seen or heard of one of its kind existing in the realm. These are but the ones that I have learned about. Truly there are perhaps others that exist that remain secret and unknown. One word of caution, Seer. These creatures, far and above all others previously mentioned, are incredibly dangerous, and it would be truly foolish to seek them out unprepared or at all. The Gygas. Known to have all perished a great deal of time in the past, the Gygas were giants among men with superlative strength and constitution of health, and thus it worries me that upon my trip to the frozen tundra whilst investigating the dungeon Blasphemous, I should spy that which I only can name as Gygas. It stood twice the height of a man, surely 10 times the weight in stone, and it wandered the frozen tundra impervious to the cold winds and ice. I dared not provoke it nor draw too close, lest I earn its suspicion and wrath. Should you travel the frozen tundra, do be keen and avoid this giant should you happen upon it. The Gnasher. Once upon a time, the story of the Gnasher was merely an old wives' tale, a creature born of anathema to rule the demons in his stead. Encounters over the last 200 years suggest that this creature is no tale at all, though it seems unlikely it is the ruler of all demons. The extremely fortunate few who have lived to tell the tale of the Gnasher state that it is quite capable with ninth circle magic, and is rather resilient against debilitating magic used against it. The best known weapon for injuring it is anything blessed as Demon Slayer. Stories are inconsistent as to where the Gnasher is located, and over time the location merely is stated as within one of the dungeons of Principle. Huh. The Tarrasque. The only creature that may be older than Anathema, and indeed might date back to the beginning of time itself in the realm, is the Tarrasque. Or Tarrasque? I think it's the Tarrasque. Any and all attempts at harnessing the incredible power of the Tarrasque, both by the Hail Gear and even Anathema itself, have failed. The Tarrasque is a force of nature that can't and won't be controlled by any outside influence. The Tarrasque is, without question, the supreme destroyer, the apex predator that might surpass or at least rival Anathema. With an incredible vitality and strength not even pit fiends and ancient worms could hope to compare. Wow. That thing must be huge, not just like small-sized. The Tarrasque is fast and attacks with devastating fury, but wields no magic, for it has existed since before magic came to the realm. It has no truly known weakness and is capable of regenerating any damage done to it quite rapidly. The Tarrasque is known to have destroyed entire armies in ages past. Wow. It is most unfortunate, but the Tarrasque is not terribly difficult to find, for the Badlands south of Bridalus are its doings. The ruins of the land there are due to the ministrations of the beast, which only the House of the Iron Fist on the coast remaining due to sheer luck or secrets that I cannot yet divine. In the known generations, the Tarrasque has remained in this area, feeding its great appetite on behemoth meat. When that food source is depleted, or even whenever the notion strikes it, the Tarrasque may well move elsewhere, which puts Bridalus in great danger indeed. Well. And I think that's the end of the section. Alright guys, we are on the final notes, chapter 7. Let's get through this quickly. I did my best in compiling the information in this tome for you, Seer. I know not how useful it may be, but I do hope that it orients you well to the realm. As a seer, your path is much different than mine or anyone else's. You will face hardships most only hear stories of. You will encounter enemies that will leave nightmares in lesser folk. There will exist dangers beyond comparison, and you will oft find your journey a difficult one, but do not give up. Do not lose hope. The weight of your actions will resonate throughout the realm. Be not afraid of stepping off the beaten path, for that is where one is most oft to find what is most important, and above all, keep the principles in your heart and mind. Good luck, my seer. Ashton Grayberry. 124 pages. So we did it, guys. We have completed the Seer's Companion Tome, the manual, if you will, for Aleph, and next time we start the game proper. With episode 3, we will go ahead and jump into the beginning of the campaign. So I hope you'll join me for that. It's going to be a ton of fun. We're going to get pretty deep in this game, I think. Is that a Tarrasque there? I think that might be a Tarrasque. Yeah, I don't know. But I hope you join me for this, and stick around for more. Would love to have you guys during this LP. I don't know how long it's going to go, but it should go pretty long, because I'm going to be playing this for quite a while, I foretell. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's episode as well, checking out the tome. If you want to see the first episode from the tome, check the previous episode in the LP. I find that that was pretty interesting too. The tome in general was very well written, nicely illustrated, very cool. So the game is going to be awesome. Hope to see you guys then. Much love, peace, and joy. Take care. And I will see you with the next episode. Bye-bye.